For those that don't think so, I think they need to do their research. But it's often the simplicity of, because with simplicity is really great complexity.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So the less is more, and the colors are strategic, and it definitely tells a story. I know we're not going to get into fonts, but I'm always reminded at how fonts tell a story.
Yeah, well, it's the same way. You can apply a red color to something that's very angular, and it's going to have a very strong presence. But you apply that same red color to a more curvy design, and it might convey more passion than anger, or passion in a loving way.
Sure.
It's amazing.
Perhaps.
Absolutely.
Now, it depends on the context of that, too. What else is around there? The shapes of everything around it, the other colors around it, everything influences the meaning.
In your opinion, what colors are overused?
This is a good question. This is a great
Okay.
I realize that there's strategic and there's reason, but
Right.
sometimes there are certain colors that
Or
you
don't
just...
they go like kind of a trend? All of a sudden,
Well,
red's
there are
sharp
color
and-
trends, but you don't really want to follow trend, because trend means it's going to expire, right? You want something that's timeless. But there aren't necessarily colors, but there are styles that are
Okay.
overused. And I wrote this article, and I don't think anybody heard me. But I wrote this article.
But you felt better after you wrote.
Yes, I had to get it off my chest, right?
Yes.
I wrote this article called Industry Genericide. And genericide is what happened to Kleenex. People started saying, hey, I made a Kleenex. And they did not necessarily mean the brand. They just meant a facial tissue.
Right.
And so Kleenex became generic for any tissue. So then the brand lost its value, right? So
That's a great point.
thank you. But the photography industry is who I was writing this to, because they're doing the same thing as a whole, because they're muddying themselves up as a whole. They are embracing this watercolor, which, don't get me wrong, as I said before, there are lots of pretty logos out there.
Sure there is.
But they're ineffective, especially when they match all the others. Right? So they're embracing this watercolor trend. So they're more muted colors, right? And this hand script font, which is nice. And there's some really well done hand inspired type out there. But again, if all the wedding photographers have the same style,
Yes.
all the baby photographers
Yeah,
have the same style.
You-
Oh my goodness. So then how are you going to stand out? So this client that I mentioned in the last podcast, where she chose the one that I said is gorgeous, the nice thing about her is that was a gorgeous logo, but she was not embracing any of those trends. Now she's already a successful photographer, but with this logo, she stands out.
Sure.
She
really-
could be half as good and still be successful because she stands out. She's got a strong name. She's not embracing these muted colors. There's nothing wrong with embracing the muted colors. You've got to do it in a different way, though, or the same with the handwritten typography. In fact, in that article, I referenced a photographer who's no longer here. She's in Colorado now, but her name is Nicole York. And she did do a handwritten type. It was actually her first name, but then she contrasted it with her last name in a really classic, strong font. So she had some nice contrast there. So she was able to set herself apart that way. And she went with a simple black and white color palette, no other imagery. It's very fashion oriented. It looks very fashion industry. And fortunately, she was smart. That's the industry she's going with her photography. She's doing a lot of fashion commercial
Utterly
work.
amazing, though, when you stop and think about it. How much effect color has on everyday life and what we do and what we see and how we feel.
So for our listeners, how would, if I'm looking to hire a designer, I'm not here. I can't hire you, right? Although they could. You could do work.
I can work from anywhere.
You know. But what would be some key things? I mean, especially if you're not sure, if they understand color, and I mean, the whole conversation. I just keep thinking of like the green that's tied to John Deere. You know, that green
Green and yellow, you bet.
I mean, you might see it in 100 different other places, but when I see that green in anything, I think John Deere. You know?
Especially when you see it next to yellow, you think
Yes.
John
John
Deere.
Deere
John
They
Deere.
have those two colors.
You know?
Absolutely,
So
immediately.
they've branded it, they've marketed it. I mean, that's part of their signature. If they were to change, I don't think you'll ever be able to get away from that.
No.
So I know that it's important, and as for small businesses, they get confused, and there's a lot of talking heads. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so how important is it when you're hiring a designer that they understand the importance of color?
Well, it's as important as understanding typography.
Okay.
However, typography I would give a little bit more weight to, because you can do things technically without color, although black is a color, right? But
Sure.
Understanding color is important because it provides contrast. You can provide contrast with font, your type choices, or you can provide it with color, or you can provide it with both and mix it up, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but how important is it with color on the website? Let's say for the individual that's pushing for the buy button, okay? Because there's certain strategic things that we do with color that says press yes.
Right,
you know?
act now.
Act now.
Right, something that inspires action.
Other than words.
Yeah.
I mean, does color do that?
Yes, of course. For instance, links are generally, historically, they're in blue, right? But you can make them in red. If you have a button, there's a reason Staples chose red for that easy
Yes.
button, right?
I totally was thinking of that too.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. I have orange on my Hire Me buttons on my website. It's a bright orange. It matches my palette, but it is a bright orange. It says Hire Me.
Yeah.
It's
You
your
need
call to
that for
action.
your elephant. You need a big, huge button on the back of the elephant that says "Hire me."
No, we're not going to do that.
Well, Candace, our show time's almost run out. It's been
this
really
has
great.
gone
This
way
is
too
super.
fast. Oh, Rhonda, you know, I'm not even done talking about color. Will you come back?
I'm not
and talk
either.
to us?
Yes, please.
I mean, I feel like we didn't even scratch. I didn't even get an appetizer here. I mean, you know, so I'm looking forward to doing some other shows with you that we talk more about color and the emotion, I think, that's tied to color. I think that would be a great
That would be a wonderful
Yeah, sure.
show.
And for sure. Plus, it gives us an opportunity for everybody to. This is a new subject. People don't think about color and how it affects them.
Well,
we take
they
it for
think
granted.
about it, but I think they don't completely understand the value of it. They know that it's important, but they don't fully understand the value of it, and they don't understand mixing colors well.
And I think that's it right there. They don't understand all of that. And as a business owner, sometimes when you're looking to cut corners and save pennies, okay, then often we're so busy bending over picking up the pennies that we're leaving dollars on the floor.
Right.
I keep looking. I haven't found any dollars yet.
That's because you keep picking up the pennies. So the dollars are sitting right there. But I think that if for small business, if they understood the importance and the value in their campaigns, in their online, and having consistency, and I won't even jump on that bandwagon today, but consistency. Yeah, that's a whole bandwagon. That's like a whole parade. But it actually sears you in the hearts and the minds of your tribe, your clients, your employees. I mean, because it's all part of your brand.
And it's part of it. It is. I'm glad you hit on that. If we have a couple more minutes, color affects memory, and that's the most important reason to use it in your brand and to be consistent with it. Because if you can get into that memory bank, when something comes up, the faster they can recall it. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the main goal: is to be memorable.
Yes.
The elephant is not memorable.
So one of the things, Rhonda, thank you so much again
It's
for
been
being on the
great.
show.
Really appreciate
Time
it.
went
Thank you
way
for having
too
me.
fast. One of the things, though, for our listeners, if you want to go ahead and sign up for our newsletter, they can contact us through, what's our email address, Mr. Lee?
Well, here we go. It's yourdisruptor, TORS, @gmail.com.
And we want to thank Rhonda for doing our logo. Phenomenal.
It's
you. It's
outstanding as
fun.
always. We really appreciate it. Candace, this week you do not get the final word. You've already yacked right through it.
Boo.
So we're going to
boo.
move right on So until next time, everybody keep us smiling.